Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. We have a very quick project today, and I know I tell you this all the time, but this one really is. We're making a double-sided zippered pouch. So we've got a zip on this side, a zip on this side, and I've added a little swivel clip to this so that you can hang it from a bag or your jeans or a key ring if you wanted to. On one side, we can put our cash or some lipstick, and on the other side we can put our credit cards or some coins. So it's a double-sided zippered pouch where the bag closes on where you've got the bag completely closed on the inside on both sides. How do we do it? Come along and I'll show you. I've decided I'm going to make two of these, one with stabiliser and one without. So I think they're going to be a quick project, and I'd like to know which way is going to look better, or even if I can get away without using stabilisers so that I can make these for the shop, because they'll be a great little thing to use with scrap fabric. So what have we got? 3 pieces of fabric. This is my outer, and then I've got 2 different pieces for my lining. You don't have to have different colours, you can use the same colour for your linings. And I've got a swivel clip, 2 number 5 zipper pulls. Now we do need to have 2 pulls for this project, and you will need to be able to separate your sliders. So we want 1 piece of number 5 zipper tape. You can use number 3, but these sliders are much easier to get on when you use a 5. And then I've got a piece of fabric that's just a 2 by 2 inch square. That will be for the swivel clip, and that's completely optional, you don't need to have it. And this piece of stabiliser is for our outer fabric, and I've cut this 1/4 of an inch smaller than the outer fabric. So your materials list will be up on the screen. And as I said, the stabiliser is completely optional. I'm just going to see how it goes with and without. This one that I'm using is called Parlan. It's a really lightweight fusible stabiliser. You can use it interfacing if you want to, and you can use something medium weight as well if you feel you need to. I'll go and iron this to the wrong side of my outer fabric, and then we'll get started. All right, the stabiliser has been fused to the wrong side of my outer fabric, and this is going to go together so quickly. Let's separate the zipper tape, and we're going to have the end of our tape facing the top of our fabric, but we want the teeth faced down. And line that up all the way along that edge. Then we'll grab our lining fabric and place that directly over the top. I'm not even going to use double-sided tape today. So I'll just clip that all together. So I have my lining and the outer fabric with the zip on the inside. Let's leave that out of the way. Turn that around. Grab the other side of the zipper tape, and once again we'll flip that faced down so that the bulky teeth are facing this fabric, and line up the zipper tape along the edge there, and then we'll take this piece of lining and we'll place that directly over the top, just like we did with the other side. Okay, so they're both ready to be sewn. So when I go to the machine, I'm going to sew with this stabilised fabric faced up. I'll make sure this lining is out of the way. Stitch right across there. Once I've done that one, I'll move that lining out of the way. and I'll stitch right across there. Once you've done both of those, we'll bring this side of the lining to the back and we'll top stitch, and then we'll bring this side of the lining to the back and we'll top stitch. So let's go and do all of that now. And what I've also done whilst I was at the iron, I've taken my little square bit of fabric, I folded the raw edges into the centre and then into the centre again. And I'll take both of these to the machine, this one being for the other bag, and I'll stitch down both long edges for those. I've got my zipper foot on and I'm sewing as close as I possibly can to those zipper teeth. Flip it around. So I've sewn the side with the purple lining and I'm just making sure that that's out of my way, and I'll keep my other lining piece lined up behind. Just like that, so this side is done and out of the way. And now I need to top stitch. So I open that out. I'll press this piece of lining away from the zip and then bring it to the back. And I've increased my stitch length to 4 and I'll top stitch. And I'll do the same for this side, but I will move that lining out of the way. I'll press this one away from the zipper tape and then I'll bring that behind and sew that one as well. And then I'll grab these two little bits of fabric for the tab and I'll sew down both long edges. Okay, we've done our top stitching along both edges here. Our lining has been stitched in place as well, and we've got our little tab. Let's take this and our swivel clip. Now, you don't have to put this on if you don't want to. Mine is a little bit big for my clip, but that's fine. I'm going to fold that in half and place that over the centre right here. I'm not going to put that on just yet though. First we're going to put our zip on, or zipper pulls on, and it just, if we don't have this in the way, it'll just be less fiddly for us. With this side here, we're going to bring the fabric together like this, and you want to line up the edge of your fabric here, and if your zipper tape isn't straight, then just trim it so that it is. Grab the curved edge of our slider and pop that over the side, and I'll place this side in as well, and I want to line up the edges of the fabric. And once you're happy with that, you can push the slider on, and you should hear a click when you do that, and that's reasonably straight across there. So our zip will close up like that. At this point you want to leave it open halfway. Turn your fabric around, tuck the lining inside, and we're going to do the same with this side. So we'll line up the fabric and then we'll pop the curved edge of the slider over the top. Oops. And this is how our bag is going to look with all the lining stuffed on the inside. We'll open this one as well. Now the next step is optional, but I think it's better to do this because when we turn our fabric the right way out, a zip's not going to come undone. So I'm going to take this to the machine and just stitch right across here and across here. And that will enable me to turn my lining out and turn the whole thing inside out without all of this coming undone later. Whilst I'm over at the machine sewing the ends of the zip, I'm going to attach my tab, and I'll just attach that to the outer fabric just in the middle there. So whilst I'm doing that, I'll move this fabric out of the way, stitch that, and I'll also move the lining fabric out of the way whilst I'm sewing that. So it's more important to have that end of the zipper tape secured. So just place that face down, move the lining out of the way. We've just got the fabric and zipper underneath, and we really only need to sew the zipper tape. Turn it around and do the same for the other side. And now I'll grab that tab, and it makes no difference which side of the bag you want to put this on, but you do need to make sure that lining is out of the way. So I'll stuff my lining inside, and I'll stuff the other side of the bag to the inside. And I've stitched that tab in place. All right, so that's been secured on both ends there, and I've got the little tab in place here. And if you haven't done so already, now is the time to make sure that this zip slider is open at least halfway. And now we can turn everything inside out. And this is the reason why, what we're doing here, is the reason why we need to have to stitch up the ends, because we're pulling so much here. The zipper tape will end up coming undone with all the pressure. So it's much easier to sew it all in place now. Okay. First thing we want to do is make sure our swivel clip is to the inside and well out of the way of our stitching area. Line up the edges on this side and on this side, and line up the sides. And your lining. And we're now ready to take this back to the machine and finish it up. So you can sew from here all the way up, across and down. At this section here, we're going to leave an opening, so we'll sew up to here with a back stitch, and we'll do a back stitch at the beginning and the end here as well. You can start from here and go all the way around. What I prefer to do is actually start from this side here, that way I can concentrate on all of this and make sure everything's right there. Then I'll come down and sew this seam and then this one. Let's get that done. My seam allowance is somewhere between 1/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch. I don't really stress too much about how big the seam allowance needs to be, even if it encroaches onto the stabiliser. At the end of the zip here, I'll triple stitch over that. Also where the tab is, and I'm just making sure that the metal clip is well inside. And then I'll come back to the other end, sew that closed. And at the other end, I'm going to leave part of this lining open. Back stitch here. Leave a big opening. Okay, we're done. All we need to do is trim the corners and cut off the ends of the zip. And now we can turn this the right way out. So going through the opening here all the way to the other end and pull that lining through, then pull the outer fabric through, and at the end of the zipper tape you want to poke out these corners. They're not going to look really pretty, but that's because we haven't put tabs on the end, and I didn't really want to either. So just push the end of the zipper teeth out, and we can find the lining that's got the opening, and we can pinch those edges together. And stitch that closed. So I don't think you need to come with me for that. I'm just going to take this back to the machine and sew straight across there. Did you miss me? Okay, that's done. We are completely finished. So this side here, we can stuff the lining in. So you want to push that deep into the bag. And I'm going to push the lining over to one side. So I'll put my hand in here and kind of hold the fabric forward. And when I push this one in, I'm going to push that in behind this hand. And then you can poke the corners all the way back. And there we go. Just push that one out as well. Probably could have used a nicer fabric, but it was a piece of scrap, so I had to use it. And this is the other one. So at a glance you can't really tell which one's got stabiliser in it and which one doesn't. This one obviously feels a lot flatter than this one. And if you look at the sides, you can't really tell. This one's just a little bit, well, a lot more floppy, and this one gives you a little bit more stability. I think I like this better, but if you're just saving time and costs, there's nothing wrong with making this without the stabiliser. So now when we use this, you've got one side to put your cash into. The other side you can put your coins or a few cards. And with the other one, we could put some cash and coins and put some lipstick and mascara in the other side as well. So very versatile little bags. And these will easily clip to your keyring if you have one, or even to the inside of your bigger bag. So what do you think? It's a very simple project. I made 2 of these because I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to see the difference between stabilised fabric and unstabilised fabric. And I also wanted to do a time trial just in case I decide I want to make these for the shop. So I think it looks much better with stabiliser on it than it does without. It sits better, it feels better, it feels like a proper purse or a wallet, whereas this feels like I've cheated somehow. So I think if I'm going to make these for the shop, I'm going to have to go and put stabiliser on it. I do have lots of scrap stabilisers, so it wouldn't be an issue. It would be a great way to use up the stabiliser that I have, and also the scrap fabric. So I think for me personally, I would sell this as a stabilised product than non-stabilised. I think it's a better finish. How long did it take me to make it? From start to finish, now this didn't include cutting because I had already pre-cut all the fabric, and if I were doing a batch of say 10 or 20 bags, I would cut everything and then sew everything up all in one go. Of course I'd add the time into it. But this took me just over 14 minutes to sew from start to finish, and then you'd probably add a couple of minutes for cutting. So given that, I would want to charge at least $15 because I charge $60 an hour, or that's what I'd like to charge. And then you've got the cost of the zipper tape, the pulls or the sliders, and the little swivel clip at the top if you wanted to have one. And of course, you would go and put a label on it as well. I forgot to do that. So I would probably put $15 on this, even with the cost of the zip. The fabric, you know, I get for nothing, so I don't charge it. And I would get my time down to nearly 11 or 12 minutes by the time I batch sewed a whole lot of these. Am I going to? I don't know. Should I? You tell me. It's probably a really quick project to do. It is a very quick project to do. I just don't know if this is something people would want. Let me know what you think. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now.